Welcome to the Garth Riley Show. Sitting here with Marcel Brunelle, who's candidate for mayor in the town of Whitby. Marcel, we've certainly covered off quite a few topics in previous segments. Let me bring one forward right now that really has become, I think a bit of a contentious issue. Not just not here where you're running, but I think in general. We have seen, for example, like a John Tory, when John Tory decided he wanted to be mayor. We've seen where right now Sarah Thompson, who's never been on council at all, want to be mayor, and neither was John Tory, never been on council. We see where you have a person running against you where they've never been on council. My question is, because government and being a mayor has some rules of ways of operation, can somebody step in your opinion, and become the mayor while still learning what government looks like?
In a word, no.
I mean, I'm not surprised by the answer because, of course, I sort of set you up for it. But I love these people who love to. I mean, John Tory, I thought his acumen. He's a business guy. I thought a business guy could maybe change government. I thought, like the Sarah Thompson talking about, I think, boy, they bring a business attitude. My question is, though, stepping back from that rah idea, can a business person step in who's never been on council before and run the lead job? Where's the challenge?
The odds are no. The experience in my time has said no. Even the great Bob Addersley, one of our greatest mayors, was a councillor for I think probably 12 or 13 years before he finally decided to run for mayor. Tommy Edwards similarly, and myself similarly. So in the past, Whitby has benefited from councillors or mayors who have served a fair long time with the council to learn the rules. The current mayor, Pat Perkins, she served 2 terms as a councillor before she became the mayor. I got to say that it is a particular kind of business that's entirely different than anything else out there. Mm-hmm. Does that, if you're a truck driver, does that mean you can drive a space shuttle?
Right.
So,
okay.
There's a very, very huge difference between running a government under the government rules that you have and running a business.
I guess the question is that, in times like these, people are looking for somebody to quote an American war term, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. We'll take that hill. We're going to go in and change government because government's fiscally irresponsible. I mean, even Rob Ford, who has served on council in Toronto, is now running for mayor, but he's had a business background. There's no question. So to your point, that the other guys you talk about had a business background. But would you want to discourage? I mean, I guess you can't discourage somebody from wanting to run to be mayor. I mean, why not? If you're going to go for the job, go for the top job. Right?
Well, I don't. I'll be honest with you. That's an ego issue as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's fair.
No, truly. I mean, you don't know the job. You've never been there, and all of a sudden you want to be mayor. You don't even know what the job's about. You can watch it on television. You can watch the mayor go and make speeches and so on. So I know how to do that job, but boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot more to the job than all of that.
When working within the inner governments, and I call that the staff that
right.
that run departments, that there is protocol. And I remember sitting. Okay, I've sat on some committees, not a lot because they won't have me. Maybe it's my attitude of saying, what did we take it so long for? But there is a process of taking things long. I'm not a patient man. I really haven't. I don't learn how to be patient. Sometimes could take a couple of years to get something through that is a pressing issue of the day. By the time it gets through staff, it gets through review. And I think if I came in as a business owner or was going after a mayor job, I'd be like, get this thing done. But you can't rule like that and have a cohesive, harmonious government. It just won't work.
Well, what happens routinely if you watch a council meeting, somebody will come up with an idea and say, we should look at doing da 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 da. Sounds like a great idea. Let's put it to staff and let's get their feedback. I can't tell you how many times after the feedback, it sounded like a great idea, after the feedback came back, we found out the consequences and the implications of it, that is that's it, it's sort of off the table. It happens, and because things are not simple as people like to think they are sometimes, and they have effects that are broader than you understand. And that's why you have a competent staff who will take those issues, and if the council says we want this to happen, come back and say, okay, here's how you can make it happen, but here's the consequences. And so that happens with the council, I'm sure, even today. and I think it happens to every council across this great land. Anyone who comes in and says, well, I'm going to just do this, I don't care, I think is going to have a big problem.
You know what? I'm all about government being shook up.
Let me just say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're a mayor, you're a leader of a team. If you're going to go do it your way and to heck with everybody else, you're not going to be successful. You're just not. You need to be able to work with these other people and incorporate their ideas, thoughts, and needs, because they're out there representing other people as well. And if you don't do that, it doesn't work that way. You can't be an Adolf Hitler. You can't be a leader who just says
You can't
my
be
way.
a dictator.
Yeah, you can't. It doesn't work. I mean, you can try it, but you won't last long.
When we take a look at successful mayorships that have happened out there, I mean, a lot of people for years, up until recently, an unblemished record, someone like Hazel McCallion, who just basically knows the business, knows the business community, knows the policies, knows the government. I mean, I don't think there's any level of government that doesn't know who Hazel McCallion is, not only Canada-wide, but probably internationally.
Hazel McCallion is a personal friend of mine. I've spent a lot of time with Hazel on various committees. I even had a winter hay ride with her, just her and I on the back of a horse-drawn hay wagon, and beautiful moon in the sky in the wintertime, and we talked politics. Hazel and I were on the Smart Growth panel together and dealt with the provincial issues from a municipal perspective. So she's a great lady, but she is, like all politicians are, someone who learned it the hard way. She was around for a very long time, being just an ordinary individual before she went to be mayor. And she learned her lessons well, and because of that, she's had a long-serving term.
I want to close this segment by saying that I think that anybody running for political office, good on them. I think that that's what this country's founded on. My concern is that I know I don't know enough about I don't know enough about how the inner workings work. If I was to run for government, which I was going to, for school trustee actually, I realized I was going to have to dedicate so much time to learning how that all worked and learning processes and learning how I probably could be being sidestepped and all that kind of stuff because they knew I was green, because you're green in anything, man.
Oh, yeah.
You get it.
Yeah.
Sports or business, doesn't matter. I know that there'd be a heck of a learning curve, and I guess I'd rather pay those dues at a less encumbering, position to be able to make the mistakes versus being the mayor.
The very best place to learn is as a ward councillor, a local councillor, because you're closest to the people. Everything you do has an effect on them, and they know you're their guy, so you get instant feedback. And it isn't long. One term would probably do it, maybe two, depending on how hard you are learning. But you will learn very quickly what the public is willing to sacrifice. And you will also learn what the members of your council, how to work with them. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest part. You have your little section of town, you want to have something done, and there's only so much money, and everybody else has something else they want done. And somehow you have to acquire the money and get the permission to get what you want done, get it on the agenda, and so on. And so over time, you gain a working relationship with the other members of council, because you can't do it alone. And therefore you become part of a team, a council team. And that's where the value is in a town council. And if you don't have a team, if they're constantly bickering and fighting, you get a mess, and it's always going to cost the taxpayers more money.
That's true. We've seen that. We've seen it in Toronto. It's well reported. We've seen it in other municipalities. And in my time in broadcast, I've seen where dysfunctional councils have cost money, cost business, cost advancement. You need somebody that has the experience to know how to navigate it. And anybody who's been on council for a while, I think is great. One's trying to jump in the seat right away, maybe not so good, but I applaud their bravado. Anyways, we got to go to break. We'll come back with more of Marcel Brunelle, asking some more of those questions about, and if you do have your own business, by the way, and you become mayor, what do you do with your business? That's a great question. Maybe we'll talk about it when we come back.